Welcome to the Better Together podcast, where we come together to do what we can to help each other work together in the ministry. Today we have with us Brother Gary Curry. He is from Oklahoma, but he travels to Mexico. He's been to Cuba. He's been to many different places with Bridge Builders for the Cross. It's a wonderful ministry, and we encourage you to learn more about it. He's here in Nashville today because he's one of IM's ambassadors, and so we just want to welcome you and thank you for stopping by to be with us today, Gary. Thank you for your good work.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure being here.
Well, tell us about this ministry that you have, Bridge Builders for the Cross. What all do you all do?
Well, our ministry primarily is in Cuba and in Mexico. We have a third area that we've started specializing in probably in the last 15, 20 years is we provide Bibles wherever they're needed.
Mm-hmm.
Our biggest part of the Bible distribution is in the Oklahoma State prison system. We provide Bibles there in all 21 state prisons on an ongoing basis.
Wow.
But how I got started with Bridge Builders, I always wanted to take a mission trip.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the opportunity, the very first opportunity was to go out of the country in Cuba in 1991 with Masters Men National Organization. And I thought, wow, I really thought my first trip would probably be here in the States, building a church or something like that. But I thought, wow, what an opportunity, because we all knew the reputation Cuba had, 30
Yes.
years at that time under Castro's government. And I thought, wow, I think I'll just go down there and tell those people about Jesus. I mean, what could they know? And I hadn't been down there 2 days, and I'd wondered if I'd even been saved.
Uh-huh.
They educated me real fast or real well. And it just changed my life. Those 2 weeks I was there, it was during the Persian Gulf War, and my brother was over there, and quite a history there of the impact that it made my whole family.
Wow. So, yeah, we have these images, and then you go and you see how vibrant the Cuban church is, how they do
Right.
so much with so little, and
Right.
how folks love the Lord, and it sounds like it just shook your heart.
It did. It shook me up good.
But you were doing some work at the same time. You were down there and, I guess, participating in some of the worship services and so forth. What kind of work did you do down there with Masters Men originally?
Jim Valance had arranged this this trip with the purpose of working on the new seminary property. They decided, the leadership, to build a new chapel, and so we went down there just to work specifically on the chapel at the seminary property.
Wow. So you did the chapel, and I guess you've been going ever since?
Been going ever since. I missed 1992, but went to Ivory Coast that year with Masters Men, and then in 93 went back again with Mom Willie, which was a real treat.
Yes.
And Brother Waddell, I believe, was on that trip. And then in 94, I felt led to lead my first group.
Mm-hmm.
And so from 94 to present, I've been leading groups down there since then.
Well, I've been down there a few times. I think only once when you were there.
Right.
But each time I have seen the progress that your group has made. First things, noticing like the where the cafeteria was and the this upstairs part, and then some of the work in the dormitories, and even some over there with the chapel. And it looks like a whole lot of folks and a whole lot of work has been going on. How did this thing grow into what it is today?
Well, that's a good question. I think it's just a matter of time and people seeing results and then talking about it when they come home.
Mm-hmm.
Never did do any advertising per se, but the word just got out from different individuals that were going, and they told their church, they told other individuals, and it just continued to grow. Seldom anymore do I put out any kind of publication or a notice that we are going. The people just kind of contact me now.
And so you all have done a lot of building projects. You've done a lot for the seminary especially. Is it primarily the seminary?
Well, we don't do as much building anymore as far as the hands-on activity. Seems like my group is getting older.
Yes.
But financially is where we've been kind of advancing our work in Cuba. Lord has blessed us, bridge builders, with funds, excellent donors, and we've been able to support the seminary not only in construction projects, but for paying professors, remodeling buildings, and what have you. We feel like the seminary is the lifeblood of the convention, and we're going to support. We're going to see that seminary stays going.
So, in other words, the revolution took place, but all during that time we had pastors, and they were ministering, and then the seminary gets up, going again, and we see a lot of rapid growth in Cuba. And you think it's tied a lot to the seminary and to continuing educating their pastors.
Absolutely. And they've done a good job with the extensions all over the country this year. And those extensions cost money. It costs money to travel. It costs money for the facilities, the professors, the teachers, what have you. It's not a inexpensive project. So certainly we've been able to help in that area also.
So folks that are listening may wonder, well, what is an extension? Well, it's a bit like you've got a UNC Chapel Hill, a UNC Wilmington, and Cuba, even though we think of it as a small place, it's not small, but it's also hard to travel from one place to the next. So with these extensions, what all has happened is y'all have provided funds for professors to be able to go to another city and provide training there.
Exactly. And we're not the sole provider by any means, but we're just happy to be able to participate in some of the needs that they have, some of the areas that crop up that we can help alleviate some of the problems.
So sometimes people think all ministry is done by pastors and missionaries, but it looks like most of your folks are lay people.
A big part of them are. All the trips vary. Now, we started going to children's camp a number of years ago, if I could sidetrack a little bit.
Yes.
We were invited to children's camp for many years, and I'd never had any experience in children's ministry. But I decided to go one year and just thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, the Cuban Convention is going to have children's camp whether we're down there or not.
Right.
But we're able to enhance the camp with materials, literature, craft items, the food, besides just little beans and rice, that we can enhance to have some chicken or pork or something like that. So we've been able to enhance the children's camp tremendously. So we don't want to take credit. They're going to have camp where we're there or not, but it has been a much more involved event. I forgot the question.
Well, you're talking about the lay people and how the Lord has used lay people in this important ministry.
Now, in March, I'm organizing a trip of 4 professors that will be teaching at the seminary. All 4 of them have their doctorate's degree, and they will be teaching about. They'll be teaching in different areas of their expertise. So this will be the first time I've done that. But I'm always looking for wherever we can fill a need, and that is a particular need that the seminary rector had told me that would be good.
Right. So somewhere along the way, it sounds like you have learned quite a bit of Spanish. Is this correct?
I can communicate as long as they don't talk too fast. But I can usually communicate my ideas where I understand their response or not. Sometimes that's kind of a little iffy.
Yes. How did you go about all of that?
Well, you know, the old saying, practice makes perfect. And when I came back from Cuba, the first time, I'd had some Spanish in college and what have you, but I was told if you'd learn 10 words a day, 10 nouns and then 10 adjectives, 10 verbs, and just practicing, you would be able to communicate. It wouldn't be in exactly the correct form, but they could understand you. And then after I had built about a 500-word vocabulary, I decided I need to do a little better than that. So I went in and took some classes out at the university in our town and just kept practicing. And so usually, like I said, I can communicate in most cases.
And you've had a few Cubans stay with you from time to time where you'd be talking back and forth. And so it does show how we want to make the point of God uses lay people, God uses pastors, God uses missionaries, God uses all of us.
Right.
And then when we really go after something, trying to apply ourselves, God uses that too. It sounds like God used your effort to try to learn 10 words a day. And,
Exactly.
and then pointed out, well, you've got a class that you could pick up, and you could do that as well.
Right.
Not to get into it, but you also had you had a full-time job. You were selling insurance, weren't you?
Yes, I've been an insurance business, independent health insurance agent for 45 years, and then we've had rental property that we've done through the years. So, yes, I've always stayed busy.
So, again, it does show God uses lay people. You can have your job, and are you retired from your insurance yet? Or
No, I have a clientele that call me for service and what have you. But as far as just getting out and soliciting or just hustling in the business, we'd say I quit that a number of years ago.
But it looks like you may be actually even a bit more active in the ministry, if you will.
More so. I stay busy. I'm on the Oklahoma State Missions Board for Free Will Baptist, and then I go to Mexico every 4 times a year, and Cuba 3 to 5. Mission board duties was in Ivory Coast in November a year ago, in India in March. So yes, they'll keep me moving.
So for our listeners, I would say Brother Gary is really an example of how God made him in a certain way, and he's allowed God, he submitted his life to God and let God use him in different ways. All through really the lifespan back to 1991 is a while back.
Right.
But that first mission trip kind of opened your eyes and kind of got you going in that particular direction. And then you've continued on. Some might even say it could be a model for how one might retire or work a little less than they used to and be able to really pour their life into ministry. So we thank you, my friend, for this example and for the good work you're doing. Before you leave today, though, I want to talk to you about the prison ministry, taking the Bibles into prison. Tell us a bit more about that, how that works, and how maybe some others might get involved in the prison ministry.
Okay. About 15 years ago, I'd had a man that I'd been in church with for a number of years, and he was always trying to get me to go into prison. And I just didn't want to. It just wasn't anything that I was interested in, and honestly, I'm ashamed of it today, but I really didn't care what happened to those people in prison. I was in the National Guard for a number of years, and was the only active duty I saw was prison riot, Oklahoma State prison riot, and I got an eye full during that time, and I just didn't want to be involved in prison work. But anyway, he asked me one day, he says, or we were talking, and he says, most of these prisoners are going to get out of prison one of these days. And I said, well, yeah, I guess that's true. I knew most of them weren't lifers. And he said, some of them going to come live in our community, going to come live in Ada. And I hadn't thought much about that. Well, yeah, that's probably true. And then he said, there may be some of them move next door to you and me.
Oh, boy.
Wow. I really hadn't thought of that, and I pondered that a little while, and I said, yeah, I guess that's a possibility. And then he came in with the close, as we would say in insurance business. He said, wouldn't it be best for these people to know Jesus before they got out of prison? and it was like a dagger stuck in me and twisted a time or two. And I said, yes, I guess that's right. So that was about 16 years ago. So I went into the prison, and honestly, I met some of the best Christian people I have ever met.
Mm-hmm.
They're just serving the Lord inside the prison.
Mm-hmm.
Well, after that, one of the chaplains asked me, says, hey, you distribute Bibles, what have you? We sure use some Bibles here.
Mm-hmm.
And so just one thing started from that, and I thought, well, if this prison could use some, maybe this other prison could use some.
Mm-hmm.
So I called, talked to chaplain there, and he said, yeah, we could use some Spanish Bibles, we could use some English, but we could really use some large print.
Oh.
And because a big part of the population in Oklahoma State prisons are over 40,
Mm-hmm.
and we know what happens to our eyesight over 40.
Yes.
So we started providing not only Spanish and regular print, but large print. And it just went from one prison to the other. And so, again, all 21 state prisons, we provide Bibles on an ongoing basis.
Mm-hmm.
And also, of course, in Mexico and Cuba as we can get them in.
Good. So started out, I guess you're going in doing like some services and meeting
Mm-hmm.
some of the prisoners and
Kairos program, if you're familiar with Kairos
Mm-hmm.
prison ministry.
very
Yes.
good, and getting to know the chaplains
Mm-hmm.
and one thing leads to another, and then you begin actually providing resources for them,
Yes.
and you've seen the Lord really work in that.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing with us today, Brother Gary, and thank you for the good work you guys are doing with bridge builders and in the United States as well as in other nations like Mexico and Cuba. Thank you for being with us.